we're here with another Oopsy Daisy podcast here. This is Ashley.
This is Vanessa.
Today we're going to be reviewing the pilot episode for Life with Derek called The Room. The summary for that is Casey finds her room in the new house too small to live in, so she asks her parents to have Derek's room. It turns out in a battle between the two siblings to determine who will have Derek's room. That's the summary on Wikipedia.
Good old Wikipedia.
Just so also that everyone knows that we're going to be doing these episodes in production order, which is the order they filmed the episodes, rather than in broadcast order, which is what Disney and maybe Family Channel showed them. As you might have known already, that we're posting these podcasts to YouTube, but we're also posting them to Anchor.
Yeah, so Anchor's a great site. It allows you to post your podcasts and everything, and it distributes them to different podcast things like Spotify or iTunes. But what I like it the most for it is you can, if you download the app and say you follow us on there and everything, you can leave us voice messages and we can add you into the podcast itself and answer your questions and everything. So if you want to do that and be part of the episodes, that'd be fantastic, and we'd be happy to have your guys' input on the show.
And then also, especially with YouTube, because they have a comment section, you can definitely use that to put in questions or something like that too. Alright, so basically, when the room starts, Casey and Lizzie are in their little room that they're sharing at the Venturi residence now that they've moved in. And of course, not long after Casey is complaining about all the Venturi kids, Derek's music goes loud and she has to storm over there and knock on his door, and we already get our first Derek of the series. So
Can I just point out that I have no idea what music he is playing? It's just some random garage band mashup that they put together, I feel like.
It's generic music that they just were able to get really cheap.
Exactly. And he plays it and I'm like, hey, what is this? This is no band I have ever heard ever.
Yeah, I don't think they ever really put in two knowable bands.
That is true.
I love the exchange where Derek's saying "Oh, you're the ugly stepsister from Snow White," and then Casey goes, "That's Cinderella, you freak."
I would have been like, can I just say that in that scenario, me personally, when she's like, "It's Cinderella, you freak," I would have been like, "It's Cinderella, you fucking idiot." That's what I would have been like. You fuck.
Well, I mean, obviously it shows that Derek just doesn't care. But also, I don't know. Off the bat, you can just see that they definitely butt heads, and Casey's not gonna back down, and neither is Derek. They are on the same level. Even with that short exchange, you can see it.
Yeah, it's true. They're already butting heads. It's you can tell it's happened even because we already know in the episode they met before. Before all this started, because there's that flashback episode of how they met.
Mm-hmm.
And you just know from then on towards the whole marriage thing, shit happened. You can only imagine Derek probably did something at the wedding to embarrass her or something.
Oh god, that's one thing I always wanted to know, how that went down.
It's true, because the way I've seen it, there are some stories that show the wedding, and we all know that I'm pretty sure Derek's the best man for George. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same for Casey. She's going to be the maid of honor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
could you imagine the glares between the vows and everything?
Exactly. But on top of that, usually when there's weddings, you have the bridesmaids and the groomsmen all paired off and shit. So they're walking down the aisle together. So that means
Oh.
Derek and Casey are probably like, fuck, shut the fuck up, don't look at me. As they're going down the aisle. Like, you can imagine this happening. So that only
What
brings
if
it.
they made them, like a lot of the times they have like I doubt they were this formal though. Like I feel like they would have had like a very low key wedding.
You don't know. Casey would have been like, no, we're doing a wedding, Mom. What are you doing?
But even if they were that formal, I could just imagine like they had to like join like their arms, you know what I
Yeah, they have to
mean?
like arm in arm go down.
Hold their arms, yeah, like hold their arms together, like interlock
Hmm.
them. And so could you imagine like these two people who like can't stand each other are like locking arms and they're going down the aisle, obviously tense.
Exactly, and that's why I think it brings to the fact that they're already going at each other in the first episode when put your
Hmm.
music down and he's like, "Arr."
But yeah, so that little exchange, I mean, all already you can just tell. Like even if this really was like me watching it for the first time, you can see like just how much they get under each other's skin.
What makes me laugh though for it is like, yeah, they're fighting and everything, and then it like skips to the next morning. And then she's like going to the bathroom, and Marty's there, like using her toothbrush to like clean the tub.
She's being very proactive. She's being very
Exactly.
helpful.
Don't be mad at her, Casey, just to keeping it clean like you know you want it to be clean. And then Edwin shows up and runs out because apparently it's traumatizing for seeing your sister in full length, like pajama top, like long sleeve pajama top and long pants, pajama bottoms.
I don't understand why he freaked out over that. Like, okay, maybe he's in his underwear. That's embarrassing for him, which I don't think it was that big of a deal. But anyway, but like seeing her in her pajamas, like that's almost more than what she usually wears.
Exactly, it's a long sleeve top and like pants. And then you have Derek that shows up and he just like, oh well, I'm going to the bathroom. She's like, no, I was here first. And then he literally is like whips it out in front of her. That's what gets me.
I think this is another one of those like moments where it just sees like he loves to antagonize her.
But whipping it out.
And he may not have actually gone to the bathroom, but I think it's just in his mind that like, well, let me see what she's gonna do. This might be interesting. Like he's just constantly testing her, I think, to see how far she'll let him go.
But what if she didn't say anything and he whipped it out? That would have been so awkward.
I think I read a fan fiction
What?
where she just stays and he's like, are you gonna leave? And then she's like, no, go.
Iconic.
I can't remember what it is, but I'm pretty sure there's at least one. And because I just remember something like that happening. It's like, like what if scenario, but like, oh my gosh.
I fucking love it. I wish it would have happened just so you could be like, Derek be like, what? No. She's like, what?
Power move.
Power move.
Power move.
You know how it's like big dick energy, like people are
Yeah.
talking about? It's gonna be that.
And she's complaining about all of this in a letter to her mom, a handwritten letter to her mom. Because she all the emails she has sent Nora are being ignored. And I just thought that was really
Can
funny.
I just say that that's the funniest dynamic that like you decide, hey, I'm going to write my mom an email because I'm mad, not just go face to face and talk to her, but like, no, I'm gonna sit down, pull out my horrible 19 2008 laptop that's like huge.
Hold on, this is 2005.
I don't know, I was just going.
This is 2005, okay? So it was even longer ago.
Okay, 2005 laptop. Let me just bust that out and like it's like I don't know, 10 inches thick, just the bottom half of it. It's like a ThinkPad 93. But she does that and then she's like that didn't work. Let me just send more. And that's not going to work. Let me write a strong worded message via paper and pen and hand deliver it to her like, okay, was the pigeons, the carrier pigeon option out not available?
And then she goes down and tells her mom basically, probably, like, basically what was already in the letter. So,
Yeah.
I mean, oh, yeah, but like they're talking with like George and everything, and they're just saying like, oh, I know there's not a lot of room and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, what was the planning of this wedding and like everything? Like, how fast did they like meet, and then get married because it just doesn't seem like they planned out anything.
That's true, but that house is massive.
It is,
So,
but okay, so they have five kids and then the two of them. So obviously, like they were thinking that they were gonna have Casey and Lizzie in the same room and like everything worked out fine. I don't know. It's just like you would think like that would be something they talked about more before they actually got married and made the move. Like they would have Casey and Lizzie like look at their stuff in their room and be like, "Okay, guys, like is this really going to work? Do you think this is going to work?" Like I just don't feel like they ever did anything like that because there's just so much drama over where they're putting their stuff. Like it looks like they're going into that house for the first time. That's what it feels like to me.
yeah, and what makes me laugh about that is because they're from what, Toronto?
Mhm.
And that's where they went to like a private school and everything. So, did they have a house in Toronto?
No, I think they had an apartment because that's what they were saying. Like,
Yeah. Okay, so if they had an apartment, that probably means it was a three-bedroom apartment in Toronto. So that's going to cost so much money. And what is Nora? An interior designer?
she's a window treatment person.
Okay, yeah, there's no way she's going to support two kids.
No, probably the dad.
Maybe. But all their stuff in that one room, I was like, hey, there's no way you can fit all that shit in a little apartment in Toronto. So there's no fucking way. So you have a bigger place. So, like, why are you arguing? But I understand two person to one room. I've done that. I grew up with that.
I've definitely lived in a small space, so I know like I slept in my sister's pull-out bed.
Iconic. That I understand. Like, there's moments. When I was small, my sister and I had a huge, it seemed huge because I guess we were like super small.
Hmm.
And from memory, it was like massive. So we both had like our beds in there. And then as we got older, we had separate rooms. But for some reason, we decided, no, let's have one room. So we physically, like, by ourselves. And keep this in mind, we were like 12 and 9. We physically, like, moved a bed down the hall and moved, like, dressers across to the other bedroom and just, like, put our beds, like, not side by side, but, like, on other sides of the wall. So there's probably, like, a foot in between the bed, maybe 2 feet between beds. So if we can do that, Casey and Lizzie could do that. But Casey's high maintenance, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if she's not used to it because she's a princess. Um,
Princess.
I can understand it. Like, that's something that you're just so not used to, like the lack of space. But I mean, just get over it, Casey.
Okay. She said, this is her argument. I need my own space. I need privacy. But she doesn't want the basement. That's the best place to have your own place.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I would 100% take the basement because you have your own privacy. Let's be real. If they had, where's the story where she actually takes the basement and there's like midnight rendezvous in the basement?
I feel like there is one. At least, like I know a lot of the after, like during college and everything. Like George and Nora go back upstairs, and like Derek's room gets turned into the baby's
The
room.
baby's room, yeah, and then they
So
sleep
then,
in the
like they
basement.
have to share downstairs.
But where is that in the high school? Like, let's be
I
real.
don't. I feel like there might have been one, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But yeah. But going back to the episode, then the next morning, like Nora, she's making eggs, and her and George are being really cute. And then every freaking kid that comes down for breakfast that morning, they don't take the eggs. These kids are freaking assholes. Just take the freaking eggs. She worked hard on them.
Hey, fucking personally, if someone gave me cereal and eggs, I would 100% go for the eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And Derek does that.
I love eggs. I would eat eggs so much more if I didn't have to make them.
That's true. That is true. Like, Derek's the only one who had that mindset. Admittedly, he just decided the whole eggs were his, and that
Yeah.
was like a pan with maybe, like, the amount of eggs were in there. I feel like they took 2 cartons of eggs and, like,
Oh, I know. But I mean, like, she is making it for a whole family, so I guess it makes sense. But, like, no one's freaking happy. I felt so bad for Nora because she's like, hey, guys, you want eggs? And they're like, no, I'm going to have cereal. Like, that's such an insult to her cooking. And at this point, I don't think she is a bad cook. So, like,
Is she usually said to be a bad cook?
I don't know. I don't think she does. I think George is supposed to be like,
I think it's George.
but I'm just saying, like, it's not like that's a thing that they know about her that she's a bad cook. So they're like,
Yeah,
I'll just have some cereal. But like, no, she seems like a decent cook, and she just spent like this time making it for you. Just take the freaking eggs.
it's fucking stupid.
Ungrateful. But I guess then we wouldn't have a show. So,
That's true. But what I noticed in the episode was every time that Derek was facing off with Casey,
hmm.
like before that moment, collar's down. He's collar because he's wearing popped collar things, like there's like the collar shirts he wears. And he always has it down, but every time she shows up, he's like posturing. I don't know why. He's like a peacock trying to like put
Oh.
out his feathers or whatever because he always pops
He
it.
needs to,
I've
it's probably like
noticed.
to appear bigger, but to appear tougher.
Yeah, he's posturing.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking peacock. They're like, let me my feathers go and intimidate kind of thing. But like that's what he does. He's like, oh, Casey's here. Pop the collar. Look bigger. That's what I've noticed in like one or two times in the show. He would do that.
Yeah, I do remember him doing that outside her room when like Edwin's speaking.
Mm,
And then maybe when they're doing the meeting too, like
yeah.
because George is like, Derek, let Casey speak, and he's like, whatever, and then he pops his collar or something. I don't know. It was just, but and then again, at that meeting, like of course Casey calls a meeting, um, which I feel like her points are valid. They did move all the way here from Toronto. They're in a new house. They're in a new place. They're around new people. So like I get having wanting to have your own space in a very foreign place. Whereas Derek, Edwin, and Marty, and even George, like they've lived here basically for like, for so long. So everything is theirs. Nothing feels out of place for them. So I did feel like there should have been more wiggle room there, and I think George should have been a little bit more lenient. At least didn't immediately knock down the idea of like kicking Derek out of his room.
No, and
But
he totally does. He's just like, no, he grew up in that room. That's his room. And I'm like, bitch,
yeah,
they
I
moved from
know.
Toronto.
We had people living in my house in and out just because like my parents liked helping out people. So like if someone needed, I remember we had like a whole family living in our house at one point for a year. And we all had the upstairs. And my dad and my mom were like, okay, guys, you're going to all come downstairs and do this and do that. And they're going to have the upstairs. That's going to be theirs. Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
do what you have to do. I mean, he's only going to be there for like 3 more years before college. Get over it.
but he grew up in that room. He became a man in that room, according to Edwin. So that
Now,
is
let's see. What are we talking about here?
exactly that's what I thought. Like when he said that, I'm like, so you're saying that you know that Derek did that there, and you're advertising it?
Well, that was Edwin, right?
Yeah, fucking Edwin, God.
Yeah, because he was reading off
Yeah.
Derek's
So
thing. So obviously Derek wrote that.
So Derek pretty much was like, advertise my love life, please.
I don't. I think the fact that he actually sends Edwin in there is another thing. Like, it's not that he didn't want to tell Casey, but again, he's like observing her in a very
Yeah.
like because he's outside her room rather, listening to her talking to Edwin about what Edwin is saying. It's weird how he's just like listening in on it, like because he just wants to hear her reaction. I think without him there, I guess.
I don't know, yeah, like, because from what you gather, he thrives off the interaction between them. Because when they do make the room, and it like, that room is god awful, I want to say. Just like the upholstery and like everything, that room is god awful. But Derek's like, I'll take it. And she's like, okay. And then he's like, wait, what? He's like, I want the argument. That's what I'm thriving
Exactly.
off.
It's not so much. He like craves that interaction, and it's just so weird. Not so much like weird, but like interesting to see him do that because that's just what he wants. He wants the argument, he wants the fight, and he wants to win it. So really, Casey just had to like go back and forth with him maybe a few times, and she could have succeeded in what she wanted.
Yeah, but can we say that Casey's room upstairs, which is like her and well, I guess it's at that point I think it's hers. I don't know, but it's gaudy because I wasn't sure if it was her room or if it was Marty's because there was like giant butterflies like on the wall, like the weird like fabric butterflies and the color combinations on her like chairs and furniture and everything. I was like, this is ugly.
The early 2000s were very gaudy, and you know.
Okay, no, like you do not see a 16-year-old, or I don't even know how old they were, but you don't see a teenager with a giant butterfly on the wall. That's
I
like a 6-year-old
I don't know.
thing.
I wasn't the typical 16-year-old, so
Neither was I, but still, I had a sister.
so Derek's listening in to Casey and Edwin, and then when Casey comes out, she sees him, and then obviously she's like, "Oh, you're so scared that I'm gonna be getting what I want or something like that." And he's like, "Oh, I always get what I want." Who the
Ooh,
heck says it that way?
that's like serial rapist sounds. I'm just saying.
And the way they're looking at each other, and it's just like, ah.
Mm-hmm. They're weird.
You cannot tell me that their parents do not see this and think, huh.
I mean, they could be clueless. Let's be real.
I mean, George's nickname is Clueless.
They
Clueless
could just be
George.
like, be like, "Oh, they're getting along so well. Look at them. They're always in each other's rooms." Yes,
But even the
yes,
fact
they
that, like,
are.
even if they aren't, like, there's not, like, any, even if there wasn't any, like, sexual tension, they fight like cats and dogs. Why would you want them next to each other?
Because they're too busy loving each other and they don't see it.
I think. Oh, so they tell Casey that Derek is gonna keep his room, and then of course, like Derek is all woohoo, whatever, and this is where Derek calls Casey a princess, though. Like, oh, not really call her princess. She's like, "Can you say princess?" Which I think he says like one other time in the series, and that's all that's ever said in like fanfics.
Yeah, people blew it way out of proportion. He says like Clutzilla more than anything, I think.
I kind of love it though, because I feel like it does fit them. But if you
Mm-hmm.
only read the fanfics really and didn't watch that much of the show, and then you watch the whole show, you'd be like, where the hell did people get
Yeah,
like him calling her princess all the time? But he does call her Case sometimes, just
case and
Case,
space case, doesn't
and
he?
she does call him Dare.
Darren.
I like, I do like that thing in the fanfic where they have him call her princess. I've used that in my own fics, so.
I have not, because you know me.
But but then okay, so then George is saying like, "Oh, but we're going to fix up the basement for you." And of course Casey's I don't do basements. But oh, God's sake.
I
Okay,
mean, I
so I could
understand.
understand her saying that if it still looked like it did when like the episode started,
Mm-hmm.
because like it didn't have any walls and like no like insulation or anything. It didn't look like that either. So it's like, yeah, who really wants to sleep in that kind of thing? But then they spend a whole weekend, which I'm very impressed by. They only spent a weekend on it to fix up her room. And I don't think it looked that bad. Like, I would have taken it in a heartbeat.
I mean, I would have taken it, but like that being said, I would spend the rest of my days there making it look 100% better than what they did.
I don't get the cow print.
Yes, the cow print's just randomly there on the wall, and then there's like the cushion.
I
But
could have dealt with everything else, but the cow print has to go.
what I liked about that sequence, though, when they were making the room, was how Edwin's like, "I don't want to do this," and Lizzie's like, "I'll do it," and then he's like, "Okay," and he goes straight to sewing, and she's like, "I'll be the handyman." I like that.
Life with Derek already with the gender roles.
I know it is great. First episode. First episode.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, that just little things like that. It definitely shows you how Lizzie is and how Edwin is as well. Like,
Yeah.
they're just completely opposite from their older siblings. And then, of course, make the room and everything. They show Derek and Casey. I can't tell if like Casey would have taken it or not, but I think she was just so focused on getting Derek's room. So I don't even think she really appreciated what they did for her down in the basement.
No, she did not.
Spoiled ass kids.
That's true. Like, I want to say I would take the basement 100%. Like, if you have a big room like that and it's all to yourself.
Right, it's all to yourself. She could do whatever she wants. It was so big. She could have danced in there and everything. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, just because it was in the basement? Like, really? Like, I guess she thought maybe Derek would be down there, so it would be better too, because then she wouldn't have to hear him and see him that much. But,
Well, the thing is that Derek talked about that. He's like, I play my music super loud. This is perfect for me, which is true.
mm hmm. And again, Casey ruined it because she didn't play along with what Derek wanted out of that whole exchange, which is a fight. He wanted to win. So,
And so she ruined secret nightly rendezvous.
and I love that line that Derek says, like, when did the keener become a schemer? I don't know if like Casey was ever like this before she moved in,
Probably not.
but he completely has turned Casey into this like manipulative like schemer. And it's been how long?
Well, she does have those episodes later on where she's like in that prank war with him or whatever,
Yeah.
and like just in like the office, the principal's like office
Hmm.
shit get on the roof. Like that's 100% more than Derek could do. So she's probably the mastermind. That's never like
Oh, if Casey could do it, she probably would. I mean, like, I think a lot of times her conscience gets in the way of her doing stuff where Derek doesn't really have that. But
yeah.
if she didn't have that little voice in her head telling her to do the right thing, I think she could be way worse than Derek because she just has the brain and the willpower to do it. Whereas Derek, I feel like he does things more for a laugh, to get people like, oh, he's a cool guy. Like he doesn't do it for any like reason particularly except to be like cool. But yeah, because like he definitely wants a fight out of Casey because when that part of the situation picks up, he like starts smirking, he starts smiling, like because he's like so enjoying this, and it's just so weird to see that someone enjoys like fighting. Yeah, so he starts smiling, and then like obviously they get found out what the other's intentions was, because Casey wanted Derek to take the room, but then Derek obviously found out what Casey was doing in the moment, and then blah 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 blah.
Blah blah blah.
And so they lock them. They don't lock them, but they keep them down there by themselves
Exactly. And then they just
to
circle.
try to get this figured out. And
They just circle like a bunch of vultures or some shit.
yeah,
I'm like, hey, that's not what people do when they're like in an argument. They don't
mm-mm.
circle each other
they. If this was my actual sibling, we would be on opposite ends of the room.
screaming.
We would, and we'd just be like, yelling at each other if saying anything. But no, they have to get closer to each other and get right into each other's faces. It's like, yes, that's very normal.
Classic. Classic sibling behavior.
And so after they basically fight for who knows how long, they go upstairs and Casey's like, I'm going to take the room. Okay? I'm going to take the room. And then out of nowhere, which Nora didn't even talk about this to George. She just made the decision.
I mean, they talked off
She's like,
camera.
"No, George, we're gonna take the room," and he's like, "We are."
Oh well, wait, man, it's pretty much the exact same thing he did though, because when they were talking about, hey, let's give the room, Derek's room, to Casey, he was like, no, he grew up there. It's his room. No, so she just pulled the exact same thing and said, we'll be down there. No input from the other parent. We're doing this.
Again, it's just like I understand the privacy issue because, especially because they're like a newly married couple and everything, but they're gonna be two whole floors away from their kids.
Yes.
You have two kids who might murder each other, and you wouldn't know until you woke up the next morning.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather have one of the problem kids like by themselves and the rest of the kids close to like parental supervision?
It's, I feel like Casey would be the best to go down there because like she's one of the louder ones, but I wouldn't have to worry about her sneaking out of the
Or
house.
sneaking people into the house.
Yeah, that too. Because that's one of the dangers of having Derek down there because the stairs to the basement are right near the back door
Exactly, so.
in the laundry room. So you just know that Derek would be like sneaking out and sneaking people in like all the time. And unless like George and Nora were to stay downstairs much later during the weekends or so, like how are you going to stop him?
Exactly. But
I feel like that would have been so bad. Like he would have been even wilder as a
I mean,
child.
probably. It's his like teenage rebellion years.
I mean, it's already kind of possible with them by themselves upstairs, but like I feel like Derek wouldn't do it as much or anything just because like his like Marty can hear, Lizzie can hear, like Casey can hear, and of course she will probably like she might say something. So he has that as like, an obstacle. Whereas if he was all the way downstairs in the basement, that would not be anything. Like there is no obstacle really.
Yeah. And then instead of figuring it out like a normal parent, they're like, Casey, hey, you should go to counseling because that's what people do when they have issues. You go to counseling.
So really, I think they did pick a better alternative. It was either Casey down there or the parents down there, and obviously the show needs drama, so having them right next to each other, it creates that. Oh, and then I look at the end, Derek's playing his music really loud, and Casey just turns hers up too. So
Or like Swan Lake music.
she puts on her music.
For Swan Lake one, it's like that's what I feel like it was Swan Lake.
Oh, I have no idea.
Some weird ballet Swan Lake shit.
Oh no, it was like some poppy thing, wasn't it?
Oh right, yeah. Never mind. I just feel like for some reason, because she's that ballet type of person, that she was like Swan Lake, let's go.
No, she put on something like really like
Got that
poppy,
Britney Spears
and then
going.
then they're like dancing and something in that blue screen thing,
Yeah,
and then it goes, and that's the end of the episode. So,
pretty much a good episode.
but I've watched that episode so many times already, so I don't know. I think it's a good first episode because I think it shows the dynamics like of how everyone is for the most part. Because obviously it shows Derek and Casey they butt heads, but they also are kind of on the same level. Shows you that Lizzie she goes with basically whatever not really goes with whatever Casey says, but she obviously looks up to Casey and like she'll side with Casey. Same with Edwin, where like, he sides with Derek and he does what Derek really wants and but also he's completely different from Derek, just as Lizzie is a lot different than, Casey. And then Marty, she's just kind of like this
She's
random.
a cat.
Yeah. And then, it looks like George just kind of like goes with the flow and Nora tried to take charge. So, in the first episode, you definitely get a feel for everyone, and I think it's pretty consistent throughout the series. So, now that we're done reviewing the episode, maybe we can, just talk about something maybe in fan fiction or anything like that.
Okay, so what I've noticed, because the versatility of the family, because you have one family that is Italian. Well, I'm pretty sure it is mentioned, isn't it?
I think
I feel like it is, and nothing's mentioned for the McDonald family, but the name McDonald, I believe, is like Scottish.
something like
Yeah,
that, yeah.
so I like to think that the possible like alternate universe stories for these guys is like the potential's ridiculous because if you go to the Italian side of it, you could go for whatever reason, you could go to like some star-crossed lovers thing that they could have because you could have the Venturis who were say, "Hey, mob boss, mob family," because they're Italian, right? And
Yeah.
then the star-crossed part being obviously Derek falls for the girl, like the normal girl, right?
Mhm.
Which is Casey. And that's like, then you have Casey's family who's like, whoa, well, that's a dangerous family. Stay away from it. Like, I like that versatility it brings.
I feel like there was only like really one.
Which,
I forget what's her. I feel like there was only one story, or I don't know if it was the same story. No, I think it's the same author that uses his like last name as, like, oh, they're in connection with the boss, so like, or with the mob, so like, they have some type of immunity, or like they're coming after them because he's with the mob or something like that. Like, I think the Legacy touched on it,
kind of,
kind of, which I love that series. I didn't read it for the longest time because it said that like Derek was dead,
right?
and I was like, why would I want to read a whole series where Derek is dead?
Exactly that.
But then I got so like bored, and I'm like, well, I haven't read this one yet, so I read it, and it's like one of my favorites. I reread it like whenever I need a good Daisy like pick me up. But there's another one she wrote that I can't remember the name of right now. But basically, Casey's dad gets in trouble with one of his clients. And so there's a hit out on like Casey and her whole family. But Casey hasn't been targeted because they think she's with Derek. And because Derek has the Venturi name and connection to like mob bosses or whatever, she has somewhat of an immunity. So they fake marry them and put them in like New York, I
I never
think.
read this one, but this is very intriguing to me.
Oh my god, I love it because like obviously they're put in this like really small apartment, and they have to like pretend they're married when they're on campus and stuff, and obviously like they start having feelings for each
Of
other,
course.
and all that stuff. And so when the threat finally like, you know, is fine, they have to be like, well, we don't want to not be married anymore.
Right? Oh, that's good.
Because they actually get married so that Casey has that immunity no matter what happens to Derek.
Okay, yeah.
But they don't tell anyone at that
I
first.
just
But
that's what I just love about the
I love that.
versatility, though, because you have that. You're like Venturi. It's, I guess, Italian. I don't know. I'm not Italian. It's like, oh, that obviously connects you to the mob bosses. That obviously brings you the 1940s, and it makes me laugh just because of that versatility, you know?
I have to see what that's called. Because that's just one of my favorites from her. Oh, what is it
Do you
called?
remember?
Oh, Matrimonial Blisters.
Oh,
I freaking love that
oh,
one.
oh my!
I think that might be my favorite of hers. But basically, I don't know how to say her name.
It's like some
Cessipole or
that's what it
Cessipole.
is. It's
No. Sezzcpl.
may she rest in
She has a
peace.
lot of really long, good
May she
stories.
rest in peace because she doesn't write anymore.
I know.
But remember the when because we're
Then again, I don't either.
yeah
So
yeah never did. Um, do you remember how we were talking about because the venture is like Italian? We had like obviously Casey's Scottish, and we were like talking about how what if she was from a royal family, like a Scottish family that was actually rich. Do you remember that?
wait, what? What was it?
Oh my god, it was like if the McDonald's were actually from Scotland, and they were like a royal Scottish family, like a Dukes or something.
Yeah.
That fact from like the Ventures, so they're just living a normal life in Canada. Do you remember that?
I I remember something about her being like a royal like family in like Scotland. That's all I really remember. This was probably like 5 years ago when we talked about
Yeah, it 100% was, and I still remember it because I'm amazing.
we talk about a lot of Daisy stories that just nothing ever
I
happens
have
to
it right
Alba.
here. I have the fucking thing right here.
It was Vanessa's. I was talking to Vanessa about
Don't drag me.
forget what about Derek being able to speak Italian, and that's where my Italian fic came out of the one shot that I made.
Yeah.
Speak Italian to me. That's what it's called.
Yes.
So we just thought it would be like interesting if Derek was able to speak Italian, and it would drive Casey nuts because she doesn't know it, but obviously he's saying stuff and it's probably insulting things, but you know.
And it's true. I just thought it was so funny because I actually found the ideas we had for it. I brought them up.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I brought it up. And it was just like McDonald's are Scottish royalty. McDonald's are hella golf enthusiasts, aka Casey, because the Scottish invented golf, so therefore, obviously, the McDonald's are obsessed with golf. And that's like how they're in the dark about the McDonald ancestry, but I guess Derek and Casey were getting married at this point, and that's why it has to come to. So Derek makes a
Right.
joke about marrying like marrying rich. That's what I have.
Of course.
But I never will write a fic.
There's so many ideas for stories, just not enough motivation to write them or
I
complete
mean, we
them.
do have the story that we put a one shot out, and apparently a lot of people did like it.
Oh, the
The
hockey
hockey
one.
one, yeah. A lot of people have been asking us to write a second chapter for it.
That's one we co-wrote together
Yeah, that's the only way I'm gonna get a story out.
on the
Yeah,
defense,
on the
right?
defense. And it's the only way
So,
that you'll see a story from me, no matter what.
um, it's actually really fun. Because what did you say? Ashley, she can't play
Yeah,
hockey
she did. I guess she couldn't skate or something. I don't know, but
because I don't think Derek knows. Derek Michael knows anything about
no, because
hockey.
he said in an interview that he did play hockey and he liked skating really really fast, but he couldn't stop.
Well, because I think it was in a behind the scenes video from like season two. Because you know that one episode he shoots, she scores, where he's teaching Lizzie how to play.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Ashley had to teach him how to hold the stick because it was like a goalie
yeah,
stick.
and her brothers are goalies, so
Yeah, and he didn't know how to do it,
Jesus.
so she had to teach him that. And then he's just not a really big sports person in general. Like, so I don't like as much as I always wanted to see Derek actually like playing hockey or like in uniform or anything. Like, we would have never probably seen it anyway, just because Mike's terrible at it.
Good old. That's why there's fanfics,
Yeah. So,
which is why we'll always see him playing hockey no matter what.
hmm
But yeah, that's my thing. I like the versatility of the fandom and how they decided to put shit together like that.
I have so many like I write down so many like things because I used to do 12 days of Daisy.
Yeah, and you always left it to last minute. Then you were like, "What do I write?" And I'm like, "Well, it's tomorrow. It has to be posted." But what do I write?
Yeah, because I wasn't very good at writing them ahead of time. If anything, I think I'd write like three, and then I end up writing them the day of, or like the day before. But I still have a bunch of, because I stockpiled a lot of them after, a while. But I can never figure out what to write for those ideas I see. Because I would do it for another, like I would be looking for another couple, but then I see one and I'd be like, "Oh, this would be good for Daisy," but I never write it.
It's okay. I write stuff and never post it. So who's better?
Yeah, Vanessa is hiding a great Daisy fic.
No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not.
It's a World War II Daisy fic, and you might be like, "Well, I don't really care for World War II." It doesn't really touch on World War II. It just takes place in that time, and I just think it's awesome.
It's great.
And she is never going to post it because
It's great. I have like I think two chapters written up.
Yeah, I think 2
But
chapters.
like, I haven't posted any of it, but I'm so like writer's block on it. Yeah, I have two chapters fully edited from you. So two are ready to go out, but the third chapter I'm like, ugh.
But then they would probably stay that way forever.
Exactly. So what's the point? Who cares?
That that's kind of what happened with me with the one Daisy fic I was reading. It was the one where Casey's been away. Like she actually went to dance after vacation with
In
Derek,
New York.
and then she comes back. I forget what I called it. It's been so
But I
long.
know this is the title of my story, guys. And it's called Laura on Love and Hockey. That's what it was called. And it's a title that is horrible, and I think it would change if I would post it.
Yeah, maybe.
But it was good. I enjoyed it. I,
Yeah.
I'll give you a synopsis because it'll never be posted anyway.
Fireproof. That's what I ended up
Yes,
calling
that's the
it.
one.
I don't know why it was called Fireproof.
No, but it's pretty much because if you've ever seen Bomb Girls, it was a series that Mike was on. He showed up in the second season, and it's about like women working in the munition factories. Well, I have Casey in that pretty much, and Derek being Derek, I have him playing hockey. And that being said, I obviously have him on Toronto because there's only 6 teams back then. So if it's taking place in Ontario, then obviously he has to be on Toronto. Um, and then because he's Italian, he is like suspended from the league because of his heritage. And then yeah, and it goes on from there and how they meet. And yeah, you're in love with my story.
I want to see I want to see like an actual story, not just a couple chapters.
I'm just saying you.
Because I just think it would be just amazing to like
I don't even know where I
so
left
much
off.
potential, so much potential.
Where did I leave off with it though? Let's see.
I feel like because she forgot her bank, her
Yes,
check or
the
something.
the first thing was the trip to the bank was a successful affair. The first sentence for the third chapter.
But for my fic, for Fireproof,
But for fireproof,
I think I ended up changing the fourth chapter, the last one I posted, more than I originally wanted, and then it ended up changing how the rest of the story would have gone. And so then I got into a writer's block because I was like, I don't know how to change it from this point, and
I feel you.
and now I don't remember anymore what I was going to do. So it probably won't ever get updated. I'm sorry if anyone's actually waiting on it.
Right?
It's so much easier to just write one shots if I'm gonna write
I can't
anything.
even do that because I can't summarize anything in one chapter, so it ends up being like a 20,000 word count. I can't do it. That's
Well,
why
you
I
know,
don't write. Moral of the story. But I'm gonna reread this. I'm gonna reread this story and then watch me get all the ideas and start writing it again.
you need to. Everyone should just like bombard Vanessa and tell her to write this story.
Except no one's gonna know who I am, so I'm anonymous.
On you want me to give
No!
your
No!
her Twitter handle is her Tumblr handle is
No!
no just
Actually, I don't care if they go to my Twitter one for my writing. I don't actually care.
I can't even like pronounce that.
Exactly. So get fucked.
You have like 3 or 4 like
But yeah,
Twitters.
but they're for different things. One's for video games, one's personal, and then one's writing.
And I follow all
I
of
know
them.
you do. So you're like, who am I? Watch her like go, and when she posts this, she'll be like, FYI, in the post itself, like written there, is gonna be like, this is what it is, and I'll be like, fuck you. She's gonna like link.
This is where you can find us, and then
She's
boom,
gonna
boom.
like link my writing blog and writing Twitter. I just know it, and I hate it. I hate you so much. I just saw an Instagram story from Ashley, by the way.
From what?
Ashley's Instagram story she just put up.
Oh,
Apparently, she's dying in Germany because it's like 38 degrees Celsius.
that sounds so weird. Just saying like, oh, it's 38 degrees because that's close to like
No, we're talking real.
freezing.
We're talking real temperatures, like the rest of the world use, not just your country uses. Just saying, Fahrenheit is a stupid temperature. That's what I have
You
to
know
say
what?
about
I
that.
don't. I don't agree. I
I
don't
do
agree.
because the rest of the world uses Celsius. But yeah, so it's 38 degrees and
The
it's
rest of the world is wrong.
38 degrees Celsius at 6:55, and it's a picture of a video of her and her husband in the car making dead faces, and then Ashley fails. She 100% fails.
I'm sorry that they're too warm.
They're too warm, yeah, in the car. And I think there's like the baby in the back too. I don't know. You can see the car seat. But yeah, I guess that's it.
All right. Well, next time, whenever that is, we are going to be reviewing. Again, we're doing it out of production order, so it's actually going to be House of Games. So, that's actually the eighth one in the broadcast order. So we're going to be jumping down a lot. But hopefully it makes sense when we're talking about it, like when we're going through everything. But anyway, so we're going to be watching House of Games, which is. It's episode 8 in broadcast order, but it's the second in the production order, so we're going to be doing that. Okay?
And just a reminder, sign up for Anchor, leave us voice messages, and this is not a promotion. I just want you guys to talk to us. That's all. Just
Non
talk to us.
spawns.
Just talk to us. That's all we want. We just want your love. And send us questions. Like, I know you're sending questions to the Dasey page,
Not really for this, though.
but I want to answer them. I want them to answer on here. Like, I want to answer some
Yeah,
shit.
so we can discuss more stuff.
Yes.
Because, you know, we
Please.
can only say so much about each episode. So,
Exactly.
especially if we can, like, you know, obviously we're doing the House of Games next episode. So if you have any questions pertaining to that episode in whole, you can ask us those or just anything in general, too. So,
Also, I think we should 100% start a Twitter for this and then reach out to the actors to be on.
let us know if we should do that. If we should make a Twitter for this and try to get Mike and Ashley's attention.
Any actors from the show's attention.
Yeah, Mike's
And
not on it
then
enough,
spam them, please.
but Ashley seems to be on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just like and retweet those tweets. So it gains some fire, and they'll be like, yeah, people want me to be there, kind of thing, you know? Let us know if that's something you want to see.
All right. This is the end of this podcast. We'll see you next time. Well, not see.
Bye-bye. We'll hear you next time. Well, you'll hear us next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.